Hello out there, internet people. We are here to entertain you again. You are back watching your bearded brothers with yet another sports podcast. I am the bearded brother, Matt.
I sometimes go by Jiggly Tits.
He also sometimes goes by Chris, and other times he might go by Tim.
Some call me
Tim? Points to you if you get that reference. And this week, I don't really think there's been a lot of news that's worth talking about.
I mean, the only one that's even remotely worth talking about is that the Rams are allowing Matthew Stafford to talk with other teams.
Pretty much. That's it.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Which just lines in with the rumors that I've been saying to you and that we've been talking about before.
Yeah,
which is
and
he might be on the move.
I get it. I don't know if he really wants to be, but at the same time, like, it's a business. He understands. Yeah. So we'll see how that all goes. It does. The only other news that I've got is it does sound like Kelsey will be back for another season with the Chiefs.
It does sound like more than likely that'll happen.
Yep.
Even though, based on his performance last season in general, mostly wasn't great. He had a couple games that were good, but wasn't his best season.
Yeah, no, I don't think he 100% mentally was able to commit, and I think he's going to want to try one more just to prove he can do it, but I don't know how that's going to go over for him.
It might be. I would say he should probably not, but
I would say he should hang it up too, but that's just me. I get it,
because I feel like it's only going to get worse, but maybe he wants to prove that he can still do it. I don't know.
I get it, though. There will also not be a power rankings for the NHL this week because there's been like there's been a lot of games, but there's only been a couple of days since they started playing. They officially played Saturday again. It's only Tuesday. So we don't have a large sample size. So next week, we will get an NHL power rankings once again. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have anything to talk about this week, and it doesn't mean we don't have a show. This week, we're going to take a look back 10 years as we're doing our draft hype. We're going to look back at the draft of 2014, and we're going to redraft the first round. Now, for any of you who have been here for a length of time, you know our typical rules, but for those of you that are new, we did get a few viewers this year that would not have seen our drafts. So, for those of you that are new here, the rule is we cannot make trades. We also have to go...
Yeah, we have to take whatever trades were already done.
Were already made during the draft originally. We cannot remake trades. That's not how this works. Everything, all the teams, 1 to 32, are lined up as they would have been at the end of day 1 in the 2014 draft.
Correct.
So, that is what we are doing, and that is where we're at today. Now, by virtue of the fact that I won the Great Brother Face-Off,
I guess. I guess. Yeah, I'd say I didn't check. I forgot. I didn't even check to see who won more games.
I won more games than you.
Yep.
I
don't know how close it was, but... Yeah.
I believe you were like 12 games back.
That sounds about right.
Yep. But since I won, I get the first overall pick. So that's where we're going to start today. Now, back in 2014, the first overall pick belonged to the Houston Texans. Now, originally, in 2014, the Houston Texans took a beastly defensive end, hoping that he could turn their franchise completely around. Right alongside J.J. Watt, who was starting to emerge. But he didn't turn out to be as beastly as everybody thought that he would be.
Still very good.
Still a very good player. But there is another defensive player on the board.
Don't do it to me.
Who already retired.
You're fucking... You bastard. Okay. I'm just going to write him in now.
You know exactly who I'm taking.
Mm-hmm.
The Houston Texans will take from Pittsburgh, Aaron Donald.
You bastard. I was literally going to take him for the Rams with the next fucking pick. Be like, they picked him anyways. Fuck it, I'll just grab him now. You bastard.
Yeah, no, they didn't get him until the 13th pick.
Yeah, they took longer to get him.
Yeah, so I think
Alright.
this makes sense if Houston is attempting to retool their defense and make their defense the big beefy thing that it should be. Could you imagine Aaron Donald playing alongside J.J. Watt? That's just unfair.
I mean, it would be interesting.
That's just unfair.
Who do I go with here then?
All right. You have the second overall pick. Rams, you're on the board.
Yep, the second overall goes to the Rams. The Rams ended up with a less than ideal tackle in Greg Robinson. I don't think he was a bad tackle. I just don't think he was a good tackle. They could have definitely done.
Certainly were better ones available.
There were certainly better ones available. According to my list, it looks like Rams could have done anyone on defensive line. Tackles definitely was an option. They did look at possibly running back and quarterback is also on my list as possibility needs.
Yep.
So, who do I want to go with here? Who would be the Rams' choice? Don't know if there's any other defensive tackles that I really want to take now. They don't really need defensive end or linebacker for that matter. I do think tackle might be a good option here. Just which one do I want to take? That's certainly a good option, I think. It's not a bad option. That's an option. Let me look through real quick and make sure that I'm not missing anyone else that I think might be better. Just double checking. Sorry, I know this is the problem.
This is the part where it takes a little while. Is who do you pick? Maybe one of these years we should institute a clock.
God, that would take forever. That'd be terrible. I'd be like, no, no, you can't do this to me. It's not fair. You know what? I think I will do this. I think this makes sense. They do desperately need a tackle. They do end up picking one anyways, so I think picking a better tackle makes sense. So I am going to take the tackle from Texas A&M, Jake Matthews.
Not a bad grab at all. That makes a lot of sense right there for the Rams. Get some protection scheming in there. Yeah, I like that. All right.
He also on my board was listed as the best tackle possibility you could pick. So
yeah, I had him.
There were other. Don't get me wrong. There's other great tackles, but he was the number one.
Yes, he to me was my number one as well. So I'm not going to say that that's a bad grab at all. That makes a lot of sense, and it makes it easier for me later on when I have to pick for the Rams.
That's true. That is true.
Now I don't have to worry about offensive tackle because we already took care of that.
I already took care of it.
All right. Moving along then. At pick 3, the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the board. Now at number 3 originally, the Jags would pick quarterback from University of Central Florida, Blake Bortles.
It was an option.
It didn't work. It did not.
Actually, what was it, the first or second season? That
like his second season, he was actually halfway decent.
Saxonville.
That was because he was carried by his defense. So yeah, I don't think that worked out as well as it could have. I think we're going to wait another year for a quarterback, or maybe try to grab one in the later rounds, or see if we can't do something about that in free agency. I think there's a number of things they could use. Halfback, definitely they need. Wide receiver, they desperately need centers, guards, um, offensive line or outside linebackers, and even a corner. All of this is stuff they need, and they need stuff badly. But
Mm-hmm.
right here, I think whatever quarterback we end up with later on, whatever we do later on, I think I'm going to set them up for the future.
Are you going to take my pick again, you bastard?
With the third overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars will take the wide receiver from Texas A&M, Mike Evans.
That was definitely one of them I was debating on doing.
Well, took that debate away from you.
You did. You did. You bastard. He was also on my top tier wide receiver list. Surprisingly enough, there is quite a few on here. That
There are several really good wide receivers in this draft.
All right. So we'll go to the fourth overall pick, which belongs to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills originally did draft a wide receiver in Sammy Watkins. Not a bad pick, by the way. I do think Sammy Watkins is a good wide receiver. I just don't know if I would argue him to be a first rounder, right? Like he's very good. I just don't know if it's first round material. I could be wrong, but I think there was definitely better picks in this option. So for me, I do have the Bills needing a wide receiver, a tackle, a guard, and an inside linebacker as the main needs. And I do think picking up a wide receiver here does make sense. And I am going to pick the obvious pick, even though the Bills have Kyle Orton throwing, I think you give him somebody who can catch the ball no matter who's throwing it to him. And I think they'd have a better success story. So I am going to pick a player that originally was drafted in the second round out of Fresno State, Davante Adams.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who you were going to go with there because there's a couple of guys there.
There is. But I think because of Adams' ability to have great hands regardless of who's throwing to him, I think Kyle Orton would be very thankful to have a Davante Adams on his team.
So, next up we have the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders do need a couple of different things here. There's the original pick here is Khalil Mack, which, God,
Great.
It's hard to go wrong with that.
And that's hard to be mad about, yeah.
That was a fantastic thing. And I for one, do see that they do need outside linebackers is something that they needed. So I'm not going to bother changing that pick.
That's fair. I get it.
The Oakland Raiders will stick with what they originally picked with Khalil Mack. He's been such a fantastic, beastly force that it's hard to say that they shouldn't have done something else. They could also use wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks, but at this moment in time, you're not going to find another Khalil Mack.
No, and on top of that, I don't know about you, but I did not find a single tight end that I liked.
I found
first rounder.
One.
See, I didn't even find one that I liked as a first rounder.
I found one that I figured that to me did stack out as a late first rounder.
Yeah. See, I didn't even give anyone that credit. So even though I have people on here needing a tight end, I did that only as if you really got nothing else,
yeah,
you can go for one of the.
There's
one of those
a
guys,
few on here at the later end of the thing where I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that one makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So. All right, with the 6th overall pick, that belongs to Atlanta. They originally did go with a tackle. They had originally picked up Jake Matthews, but Jake Matthews is now off the board, so that is not an option for them. I do have them needing a running back, a center, a tackle, and a defensive end. And I thought about this for a while, and I think it just might make sense to potentially do this now. I mean, you have a Matt Ryan on your team. You want to do everything you can to protect a Matt Ryan. And so I think offensive line does make the most sense here. Now, as to if I'm going to go with a guard or a tackle, they don't really need guards. They have good, either a tackle, maybe a tackle. If I go tackle, which one do I want? I have so many options. I think this makes more sense. I'm going to pick the guy out of Ohio State for their center, Corey Linsley.
That is not bad at all. That's a pretty good
Because
pick.
even if you don't end up putting him at center, he can play multiple positions. I would say put him at center, but even if you don't for whatever reason, you're getting a great offensive lineman. So there we go. And then you shore up that stuff for Matt Ryan. So makes sense.
Alrighty.
All right.
Next up at number 7 on the board, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, originally taking from A&M, Texas A&M, Mike Evans, but he is already gone. He is off the board. And now, while they do need a wide receiver, there's a couple other things that they could really use. Quarterback is definitively one of them, because when you have Mike Glennon and Josh McCown throwing your football, you probably need something better. Also, offensive tackle would be something that they could look at as well. However, there is a player who did not go to the second round, who I did not go originally until the second round, who I feel should, based on his career, even though it's been up and down, could definitely have gone.
You're going to do it.
I am going to do it. I'm pulling the trigger. From Fresno State, I'm going to take the quarterback, Derek Carr.
I'm a little disappointed because I'm not going to lie. With the next team that I have, if he was still there, I was going to have the Browns take him.
Nope, he's going to go to the Buccaneers at 7. That solves their immediate quarterback need. Hopefully they still have Vincent Jackson as a wide receiver, so it's not horrible. They can eke out another year there. And then you can look to replace wide receivers in your next draft.
Fair enough. All right. So for my next team drafting at number 8, we have the Cleveland Browns. They originally went with a defensive back in Justin Gilbert. Not a good pick. I'm just going to be blunt. It wasn't a good pick. He turns out to be pretty mediocre, if you ask my opinion on that. So looking at the needs, the Browns do need a quarterback. They do need a running back. They need a guard, and they could go with a linebacker. I don't even know why they went, looking at their roster, I do not understand why they picked him. They didn't even start him at all. So I'm very confused, to be completely blunt with you. And he was a corner for them, apparently. He was on the roster, and that was about it. So, and even looking at their cornerback room, it's not like they were really bad. I'm just going to say blunt, they didn't need a corner here. This was not the choice that made sense. Because if you look at actually who they ended up having their roster at that time, Joe Harden, Dante Whitner, Tashawn Gibson, they had a good backfield. They didn't need another corner. Makes no sense. Linebackers, yes. Huh?
None. It makes no sense.
None. It makes no sense. But they do need a quarterback as well, because they had Brian Hoyer, which, not the worst quarterback you can have, but definitely not the best. They had a rookie, so they ended up drafting 2 running backs, and both of them were rookies that were starting, and neither one of them, I think, really are fantastic. They could have picked better running backs. I just don't know if that's the option I want to go here. I could. I could go linebacker. Which linebacker do they need? Is it outside or inside that they needed? I think it's inside. Let me double check. They had some decent... Was it outside? I thought it was inside. Okay, so they could have done better at outside linebacker. Hmm. That's an option. I just feel like you just need to get that offense moving a little bit more. Okay. With that in mind, do I go... They've even had... technically, I could use a wide receiver too, but I think it makes more sense here. Let's see. Which player makes the most sense? That's an option. That's an option. Where's the other one? Where's my other one? I know you're on here. You're on here somewhere, buddy. Where? There's no way you were taking this late. Okay. I'm gonna type you in because clearly I can't find you.
Yeah, you're gonna get to pick for them again too.
I know. I don't know if I want to go that way either. What about...
Here we sit like birds in the wilderness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know about that one either. Man, it feels like, honestly, all the running backs, I don't... As much as, like, they kind of need a running back, I just don't know if this early up in a pick makes sense. At the same time, I don't know if they'll still be there when they next pick. Because they don't next pick until 22.
Yep.
Hmm. No, that doesn't make sense here. So many... Man, they made it difficult because all of their needs are just like... QB, there's not really a great option here that I want. Running back, while there are options, I just don't know if I want to take any of them here this early when there are better players available. Even looking at the linebacker group, while I could do that, I'm just not a lover of the idea. But I can understand it. I don't want to put anybody in the backfield. I don't want a corner or a safety. I don't think those are necessary. Could they upgrade here at a position that I didn't originally look at? Ooh. I could go that way. That could be a fun pick. Which one do I like better here, though? Do I go that way? Do I go this way? You know what? I'm actually going to shoot for a completely different position that I originally wasn't going to look at. But looking at what they have for the defensive ends, I think they can improve substantially. Especially with
So I'm going to go ahead and cross him off now.
especially with the positions we have. Well, we'll see which one you think I'm picking. I'm going to pick. Well, technically he was at two different colleges, but we'll say Boise State.
Ooh.
And I'm picking DeMarcus Lawrence.
Not bad. I thought you were going to go with the guy from South Carolina.
Fair enough. I just think DeMarcus Lawrence makes a lot of sense for this team in particular. He's a big, beefy dude, and that's kind of what they like.
Not going to say that you're wrong. All right. Moving to the 9th pick, we have the Minnesota Vikings coming onto the board. And originally, they took linebacker from UCLA, Anthony Barr. Now, did they need linebacker?
Definitely a great pick, but yeah, did they
Great
need
pick,
it?
but did they really need that?
And
Now,
knowing the era we're in, though, with Mike Zimmer and everything, it makes sense.
yes, but there were things that they could have done better. So what did they really need? Well, by this point in time, offensive tackle MacLeod had proven to become a turnstile. And was letting things through left and right. So offensive tackle is certainly something they could have looked at. Quarterback, because we've got Christian Ponder. And maybe a wide receiver, although we're not really hurting at wide receiver. But
I'm not gonna lie, because I picked for them at the end, I also had them basically taking either a safety or a corner would actually not be a bad either.
no, safety or corner would also be good, but we had some decent safeties and corners in-house as well.
Yeah. I just think based on what's in the draft, they could improve on that.
Yes, they could.
But yeah, I was definitely looking at guard or tackle was definitely, and quarterback was like the main
Tackle
three.
for me was the big one, so we're gonna go ahead because there's a guy right here, and he plays nearby, and I think this will be a great grab considering how well he played for most of his career. So the Minnesota Vikings will select the offensive tackle from Michigan, Taylor Lewan.
Taylor Lewan, yep. Okay.
That anchors down that line, gives Christian a little more time to throw if we don't select a new quarterback, and even if
We'll see if there is one by then.
even if we don't, we can get one next year maybe. But at this point, I think solidifying that line and taking care of Matt Khalil and pushing him out of that starting spot, I think is better because he can't protect anybody's blind side.
God, no. I fully buy into what you're saying. I thought that the linebacker choice isn't a horrible choice if you wanted to shore up some stuff, but they really needed to work on that offensive line for sure. Fully in agreement there. All right, so going on to the 10th overall pick, that belongs to the Detroit Kitty Cats, and they originally picked up a tight end in Eric Ebron. I'm not going to say it's a bad pick, but I think it's an early pick, if that makes sense. I think Eric Ebron is actually a pretty good tight end. I just don't know if I agree with him being a first rounder. And if he is, I wouldn't call him a top 10 first rounder.
No. He's definitely bottom of the draft. Bottom of the first round.
So looking at what the Lions need, they definitely also needed a tackle. They needed to shore up a little bit more protection for Matt Stafford. But a lot of their stuff is more on defense. So I have them as needing also a linebacker, a defensive tackle, and a cornerback would also work quite well for them. So I have some options for sure. I just don't know which one I'm going to go with. Let's look at their team real quick and see what makes sense here. I think tackle may be a good option, but I don't know. Let me see my list. Do I want to take... I guess I could do that. I could do that. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. I'm just comparing two players here to see if either one of these are kind of where I want to go.
That's fine.
Maybe not you. Maybe you. I could see it. I could see it. Shoring up a little bit of protection might not be a bad option. But man, they really need some help on defense too. Like badly. Which linebacker do they need? Oh, they play in a different style. Do they need a middle linebacker? Is that what they need? Nah. Maybe. Maybe that's an option. Decisions. I have so many. I have options. Because they have one good corner in Darius Slay, but I'm not a big fan of Rasheed Mathis as their other corner.
He actually was pretty good.
He wasn't bad, though. Yeah, looking at his stats now, I'm like, maybe that's actually not... Maybe I should leave that alone. Maybe leaving the corners alone is my baby. What about their safeties? Oh, okay. Maybe that's the mistake. Maybe they need a better strong safety. Because their strong safety at the moment is James... Ian Gip. I cannot say his last name, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it.
Ihedegebo.
Idegabo,
but
I
not
believe.
Idegebo, yeah. Because they had Glover Quinn as their free safety, and he was actually not bad.
No, he was not.
But they could improve on strong safety. Do you want to go that route? You know what? I'm not going to overthink this. I think protecting Matt Stafford is a good option, but most of their line is not that bad. Most. Oh, God. Every time, though, I look at Riley Reef and I just get...
Angry?
I look at him and I'm like... I get angry, yeah.
He was a guard, right?
A tackle. He was playing left tackle at the time. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any...
He's not... No, I was going to say the only thing is that, like, I look at their right tackle and see Adrian Waddle and go... Okay, he can be improved on, though. Because their guards, I mean, Rob Sims and Larry Werford were actually pretty decent.
Werford was pretty damn good.
So really the only problem on their tackle would be Waddle if I wanted to improve that. Man, on paper, this team's actually not bad. Which also explains why they went 11-5 this year. You know what? I do think they can improve on... Okay, I'm not going to overthink this. I think... as I overthink it, right?
Yep.
Classic me.
Classic you.
I think if I look at their defensive tackles, you have I can't say his name. I always screw it up, but Sue. I can never say his first. Indomica, yeah. Which, say what you want about him, but he was actually good at the game.
Yes, he was a douche canoe, but
then
damn,
the person he's paired up with is Nick Fairley, which I don't think is a great option. So I'm actually going to replace, I think I'm going to replace Nick Fairley, and I'm going to pick up, in his place, defensive tackle out of Penn State, Daquan Jones.
Not
That's
bad.
what I'm going to do.
Not great, but not bad.
Well, again, when you look at the team, they just, for me, the hard part is that they actually don't have like
I'm aware.
crazy amount of needs, even though that they did bad, right? It's just like, dang. But this was an obvious improvement over what they had.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I think I'll be okay with that.
Alrighty. So, moving on to pick number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans, originally grabbing Taylor Lewan out of Michigan, but he is no longer on the board. And did they really need a tackle? The answer is yes and no. Michael Orr is obviously coming to the end of his career, unfortunately, but he's still on the team. They still have some good pieces in place. I think there's a few other things that they need to look at. Specifically, quarterback, because currently you have Charlie Whitehurst and Jordan Palmer as the only quarterbacks on your team. In the draft later on, they would draft Zach Mettenberger from LSU. Known for just turning out gobs of quarterbacks before Joe Burrow.
Yep, totally.
They could also use a wide receiver because that's definitively something that they're short on and have been for the better part, like if we look back on them, they've been pretty short of wide receivers for the better part of a decade. They had that great little window where they had A.J. Brown and then got rid of him.
I'm never going to get over the fact they did that.
Nobody will. And they could also use a safety. They have one that's pretty good, but they could use to replace the other one. So what do I want to do here? That is the biggest question I have. There's a couple of quarterbacks I could take, but I don't really like either of them here. I still think 11 is too high for either one of them at the moment. Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to make this easy. For whoever's throwing the ball, I'm going to get them a weapon. And it's going to be a damned good weapon. And I'm going to go to the College of Louisiana State University. And out of Louisiana State University, I'm taking the wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr.
It was so funny because, like, if you didn't take him, I was going to be like, well, you made my job easy. The Giants are just going
to stick and pick. Yeah, exactly who they had originally. Why not?
Yep.
That makes perfect sense. Exactly, but I was like, nope, you know what? I'm going to take him one slot earlier because Lewan is gone.
All right, so now I need to decide. All right, so obviously, going on to the 12th overall pick, it does belong to the New York Giants. They did originally pick OBJ here. Obviously, now it's not there anymore for them. Let's see what else they have as options. They do need a wide receiver, of course. They do need a guard. A guard could be useful for them, or a linebacker, or a safety. At least that's how I saw it. So, we got options here. I think first, let's see about if any of these guys make sense for me. Yeah, I think we're gonna do this. It just makes sense. It just, they really need a wide receiver. OBJ is no longer on the board. They're gonna pick up, in my opinion, the next best wide receiver available. And in my opinion, that is Brandon Cooks. And he's out of Oregon State.
Don't even have him on my board.
Which is crazy to me because the guy had 9,000 plus yards, 60 plus touchdowns. Like, I don't know how. If you look at the stats for Allen Robinson or Jarvis Landry, they're not as good. So that's just me. I also think that if you have a really good quarterback throwing to him, Eli Manning. I mean, you can argue if he's really good or not, but I think he's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, you get a field stretcher. Yeah, I don't blame you for it.
Yeah. I just think it makes sense.
Alrighty, so at number 13 now, I have the Rams. We've already kind of talked about what they need. Originally here, they would take Aaron Donald out of Pittsburgh, but obviously he went number 1 overall.
He's not there no more.
He's gone. So what else could I do here? Well, we've already shored up offensive tackle, thanks to an earlier pick. Which means maybe Sam Bradford doesn't get himself totally blown out injured this season.
Maybe.
So, to try to help with that, I think this is the first spot where I feel comfortable doing this. I'm going to give him a big, bruising running back to help solve his woes. Now, I got to find him.
Curious to know which one you're going to pick for him.
A little bit later. There he is. And I'm going to grab a running back from Florida State University. I'm going to take Devonta Freeman.
Devonta Freeman, yep.
Who I have as the highest rated running back on my board.
He was also on mine. I debated it earlier, but with the Browns, but
yeah, I understand not taking him top 10. That makes sense. But taking him here at 13, this feels a little more right. They would eventually take a halfback in this draft in Trey Mason, and I love Trey Mason. Don't get it twisted.
Don't get me wrong, not bad, but he's down. He's not a first rounder.
He's not Devonta Freeman. If he is a first round pick, it's bottom of the first round. There's nothing else. Yeah. There's a couple of guys on here like that.
Yeah. I have 2 others on my list, but I suspect that if they do go, it'll be towards the bottom of the list.
Yeah, I do. I have 2 on mine as well, and I would not take them very high.
No.
Bottom of the first.
Yeah. All right, so number 14 belongs to the Chicago Bears. Duh, Bears.
Duh, Bears.
And ultimately, they ended up picking defensive back Kyle Fuller, who I believe is actually a cornerback.
He is
a cornerback. Not a bad choice. Not certainly my favorite choice. So looking at their needs, I do have them needing a wide receiver, a corner, a linebacker, and a guard. We could stick with corner here if I want to. Is there a better corner in my list? Is there any of these guys that I think are better options? Let's see here. Honestly, maybe not. Let me keep going checking here. Also just seeing if any of these guys make sense this high up or not. I mean, we're not super high up now. We're about halfway through, but do any of these make sense to me? A lot of these guys I'm not huge fans of at this point. They're not bad, but I just think there's better options. Yeah. Maybe corner is not where I want to go with this. Because I do think Kyle Fuller's probably, at least on my list of players,
He is the
probably
best
the
one I have as
best.
well.
Yeah. And I just don't know if I want to go with that here. Is there a better player that I can put in here? What other options do I got here? Don't know if I want to go wide receiver at the moment. I mean, I could go Jarvis Landry, but I don't know. Hold on, let me look. What do they got right now? Oh my God. Ashland Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, and Josh Morgan. Of course, you got Jay Cutler thrown, so who knows? And Landry would be better than probably most of those guys, actually.
Brandon Marshall was pretty good. Alshon Jeffrey was,
He had moments.
yeah, up and down, had moments.
Linebacker or guard? They had Kyle Long already, which was pretty good. Michael Ola any good? No, he wasn't. Could go with a guard.
There's a couple that are
There's
absolutely
quite. I was gonna say there's a
killers.
couple left that are still really good. And of course linebacker, but I don't know if I want to go that way at the moment. Though it is an option. You know what? Let's see here. Which of these ones do I like the best? Which of these is not like the other? Da, da, da. Just mostly deciding now on which one I like the best. Because I have so many options, actually. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think I've narrowed it down. Yeah, that just makes the most sense here. Okay. I'm not going to overthink this at this point. I definitely found a absolutely stud at 14. He is a guard out of Notre Dame, Zach Martin.
Yep, that was the one that I was like, he's the top of my guards list. If you don't
Yeah.
take him here, somebody's gonna grab him quick.
Oh, yeah. It just makes sense. The fact that he's at 14 for the Bears, I mean, you shore up more defense protection for Cutler. I know it's Cutler, but let's be honest, Cutler is actually not bad if you give him time to throw. So I think the more time you give him, the better. They do need some work still on
I
defense, but
said something once about Jay Cutler, and it holds true to this day, which is when Jay Cutler is motivated to play, there is nobody better than Jay Cutler.
yeah,
Not a
it's
single
crazy.
quarterback. The problem is Jay Cutler only gave a crap less than half the time.
Yeah, he was kind of one of those guys like that would just kind of like, yeah,
Yeah, whatever. I'm here. I'm getting paid. Who cares?
yeah,
But
pretty
if
much.
you could find a way to fire him up and motivate him, that dude could throw absolute bombs.
Oh
Like
yeah,
nobody could stop him.
and that's what I'm saying. You give him even some more time, and like
Yeah,
we're
you
we're
give him
ta-
like a
we're
Zach
cooking.
Martin to work with.
Yeah, you give him some cook time, we're good.
Yep. All right. So moving along, we got number 15, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Steelers are an interesting team. They're middle of the road right now. They've got a lot of good things going for them, but they still need a little few things here and there. They would originally take Ryan Shazier, the inside linebacker from Ohio State, and that wasn't a bad pick. Eventually, his sickle cell would act up, and he would get, I believe, he would also get a neck injury that would force him out of football. But still, while he was in there, he was a really good linebacker.
Oh yeah,
But is that the way they should go? Because they could also use an offensive tackle and an outside linebacker, and maybe possibly a defensive end. And thinking about that, there is a guy on the board right now who can play both defensive end and outside linebacker, and nobody was expecting to slip this far down. So I'm going to do it. I'm pulling the trigger from the University of South Carolina. The Pittsburgh Steelers will take Jadeveon Clowney.
Nope, that makes perfect sense.
Especially for the way the Steelers play football. Big
Yeah.
smash mouth, friggin' like that big athletic freak of nature as a defensive end. That's perfect for Steelers. He would fit in that black and yellow so well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he would become a staple of them. I don't know what they'd cut. People would show up in clown costumes in Pittsburgh just for that, because
Probably.
people in Pittsburgh are a little weird.
Fucking weird. Yeah.
But we love them. But y'all Pittsburgh people are a little bit weird.
Just a little bit.
You're still better than Philadelphians, though, so good for you.
All right, moving on to pick 16, which belongs to the Dallas Cowboys. They originally did pick Zach Martin here, obviously, no longer available. So they do still need a guard. They could improve on one tackle position. They could improve in defensive tackle, linebacker, or corner. I think I need to check one last thing, but I think I know exactly who I'm going to pick here.
I'm sure I have half a mind I know exactly who you're going to pick as well.
Yeah, you might not. You might not. I have a feeling that I'm gonna throw you off because I just got a feeling that I'm gonna pick someone that you did not think of.
It might be.
I tend to do that.
You do. I'm not saying you don't.
However, I think to me, you can't get the guard you want. You might decide to pick up a different guard, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm looking at their defense and going, I think they can improve drastically in their linebacker department.
They could.
And I'm going to pick up out of Alabama, C.J. Mosley.
That is not a bad grab.
He can kind of float around in any of the linebacker
Yeah.
positions they need. They can fit. They need both a left linebacker and a middle linebacker. I think he's easily fits. Right linebacker and middle linebacker. I think that he slots in either one of those positions just fine.
I'm not saying that that's wrong. I like that pick. Makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, he played very, very, very well.
Again, like I said, maybe not the person you originally thought I was going to go with.
No, I thought you might go with Try Turner.
I thought about it. I really did, but looking at the stats for C.J. Mosley, I just had a hard time not going with that.
Yeah, I understand.
Especially when you look at like how good most of their offensive line was. Like, yeah, they could have improved at guard. Yeah, they could improve at tackle, but like most of their line was actually pretty good. Like they had Tyron Smith and Travis Frederick. Like that's your left tackle and your center. Like you're already doing pretty good right there. Leary was there too and wasn't bad. So like overall, I think they had a decent offensive line even without another guard.
Alrighty. That brings us to the Baltimore Ravens, who could use. I looked at them. They definitely use an inside linebacker, which is why they originally drafted C.J. Mosley out of Alabama. But they could also use an offensive tackle, a wide receiver, and a defensive end. Unfortunately, the defensive ends that are left, I like, but I don't know if I like them quite where they're at here. But there are some very interesting picks at linebacker. And that's what I'm pawing through right now. I just want to see who may have had. How did he do overall? Let's see here. Now it's my turn to take a little bit.
Nope, you're good. I get it.
Yeah, I just want to make
I'm
sure.
prepping for my next pick right now by doing that.
Yeah, because I just want to make sure that I grab. Where was he then? Was he. There he is. And then who else do I have here? Got to figure out where he is as well. Maybe he was one of the undrafted? Because I think there was a guy here. Oh no. Forgot about him. Was he in or out? Yeah, that's who I'm going to take, I think. But I just. There we go. Yeah, he plays mostly outside though, so not going to be able to do him. Yeah, I think that's who I'm going to go with. All right, so they're going to grab a guy that didn't go until a little bit later, but I like him here, and I like him now. He would normally not go until the second round, but big fan of his. Out of Brigham Young University, the Baltimore Ravens will select linebacker Kyle Van Noy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Shazier is still an option here, but I like Van Noy's flexibility and his roaming nature just a little bit better for the Ravens. I think he fits what the Ravens are looking for in a linebacker a little bit better. And in fact, at the end of his career, he would play a couple of seasons there anyway. So let's just skip the Detroit and New England stints and put him right in Baltimore where he can flourish.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, with the 18th overall pick, that belongs to the New York Jets. They originally picked up Calvin Pryor, a safety, either free safety or strong safety, depending on where you're looking, but a safety, which is a possibility on their list. I just don't think that was a good safety pick at all. There are definitely better safeties on this list for sure.
He was all right, but never stellar.
Yeah. As far as needs, I do have them needing a wide receiver, a guard, a tackle, and a safety.
In
I
fact,
don't think I'm going to go.
If I am to be remembered, I believe this was the draft where they had like 12 picks.
They had a lot of picks.
And they became known as the Itzik 12 because none of these players, one guy, really panned out, and he was near the bottom of the list. And in fact, another one of these guys punched his quarterback in the face and broke his jaw.
True.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember hearing about it. And obviously, their quarterback at this time is Geno Smith, which we know actually can be a good quarterback if you give him protection,
Weapons and time.
weapons, and time. I'm going to give him some protection. I think it just makes sense. The question is, which one am I going to give him? Well, I'm going to give him the one that we've already talked about several times at this point, because they need both guard and tackle. Why not pick up the guy, or one of the guys who can do both? I'm going to pick up Try Turner out
Totally
of
great
LSU.
choice. Totally great choice. I'm not even mad at you for that.
It just makes sense. They really need to give him better protection, because if you see their line right now, it is disgusting to look at. They have like a good center, and that's about it.
All right. So, looking now, we come to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins at this point would actually grab Jawan James, an offensive tackle from Miami, and that's not a horrible pick. He's turned out to be decent and lasted quite a while, but is it what they really, really needed here? Well, let's find out. Right now, throwing the ball, they have Matt Moore and Ryan Tannehill. All right, we know that given the right set of circumstances, Tannehill can be decent. They've got Lamar Miller to run the ball, so okay, we can do that. That's fine. Unfortunately, what do they have to catch the ball? Mike Wallace, Brian Hartline, Rashard Matthews. So wide receiver is definitely something they could use. Then you get looking at their tight ends and you go, okay, Charles Clay, that's fine. Most of the rest of this, the offense is all right until you get to their tackles. They could probably use a new one there. But really what they need are help at linebacker and a safety. So we either need to grab a linebacker that really helps them or a wide receiver that really helps them. They would eventually grab a wide receiver anyway. I now want to look and see. Yeah. You know what? At this point, outside linebacker is definitely something they could use as well. And those are kind of few and far between. But there is one outside linebacker that didn't even get drafted. They, I think, had a career worthy of going in the first round. So, at this point, the Miami Dolphins at 19 are going to take from Colorado State, Shaquille Barrett. And if you look at his stats, that dude had a hell of a career.
No, I know. I'm not disregarding it. It's not a bad pick for sure.
I thought about going with a wide receiver here because they would eventually take Jarvis Landry anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, no, not right now. Shaquille Barrett really helps their defense, really gets them plug in. I think that helps them more than offense would at the moment.
Totally get it. Totally understand. So, going on to the 20th overall pick, we have the New Orleans Saints. Originally here, they drafted wide receiver Brandon Cooks. He's no longer here, obviously.
Nope, you already took
So
him.
they're not going to pick that. They're not going to pick that. I also have them needing a safety, a corner, or a linebacker, so they could pick somebody on defense. But I think picking up wide receiver here makes sense. Looking at their wide receiver room, it is questionable, to put it bluntly. And so I'm just going to pick up who I think makes perfect sense here, and I'm just going to drop in Jarvis Landry right here.
All right.
Give him some of that deep bomb ability that we know that Drew Brees can easily do down the field.
And right here, we've got the Green Bay Packers. I hate drafting for the Packers.
I know.
Hate drafting for the Packers. And originally they took safety out of Alabama, Clinton Dix. Not a bad pick. He's
not
actually
a bad pick, by the way.
not a bad pick at all. But is it what they really needed? Not really. They could do better, and I think this time they're going to do better. So what are we going to do? We're going to do something that Aaron never had the Packers do for him. Well, they did this draft, but unfortunately the guy they picked is already gone. So we're going to give him a different guy. We are going to draft wide receiver. And out of, I believe, hold on, let me make sure I get the right school for him. Yep. Out of Penn State University, the Packers will draft Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson, yep. That's all of my wide receivers off the board.
I still have two that I could take if I need them. I don't know that there's a team desperate enough to take either one of them at the moment.
Yeah, no. At this point, all of the what I consider top tier wide receivers are off my board. Okie dokie. Well, let's look at the list of what we got available to us still. Because 22, we're going to the Browns again. And the Browns originally at 22 picked up quarterback Johnny Manziel, which was a choice. It wasn't a great choice, unfortunately. I wonder if Manziel would have done better in a different team and system. It's possible, but it definitely wasn't. It definitely wasn't the Browns. The Browns were not the good choice here. Looking at what the Browns do need still, they still need a quarterback, but I'm not sure if I want to go that route. They still need a running back, but I'm definitely not. I don't think I'm in on that at all. Who did they pick? Who did I have him drafting already? I had him drafting. They were at 8, so I drafted DeMarcus Lawrence already for him. I did a D end. You know what? I think Brian Hoyer being their quarterback. That's. I mean, how old is he at this point? 29. Been in the league for 4 years at this point. You could stick with a Brian Hoyer for another year potentially and look at potentially future draft. So maybe giving him some protection is good. And being that they already drafted this player later on, I think he deserves to be drafted in the first round. We're going to pick guard out of Nevada, Joel Bitonio.
Guard/tackle. He's played both.
Guard/tackle, yeah. Which is also good for them because, frankly, they could use either one.
Yes, they could use either one. He could slide inside or slide outside. That makes a lot of sense for Cleveland at the moment.
Yeah.
All right, so
I give him some defense and some offense. Hopefully that works for him.
Hopefully that helps. So the Kansas City Chiefs clock in at 23. Initially here, they would take defensive end out of Auburn, D. Ford. Not a bad pick. Could have done.
Not my favorite.
I think they could have done better. One of the things I did notice that they needed, though, cornerback was a definitive need because I don't recognize any of the names on that list. I looked at that and I went, who? Wide receiver was another one because all they really had was Dwayne Bowe. And offensive guard and defensive end are both things they could use. But considering he's still sitting here, I think at this point, the smartest move for them to do would be to draft out of Virginia Tech quarterback Kyle Fuller.
Fair enough.
Upgrade that secondary. Now you have a name on it. Congratulations.
Makes sense. All right. Well, let's go on to the 24th overall pick, which belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. Originally, they pick up a cornerback, Darqueze Dennard. Not the best corner you could pick up, to put it bluntly. Not horrible, but because of the fact he didn't even start for them that year, you know, just I don't think it was the right choice. As for what their needs are, they do need a tackle. They could pick linebacker, safety, or defensive end. Um, they could improve on corner. I just don't think. Yeah, looking at the corners, they really didn't need any new corners. I mean, maybe as far as age is concerned, because Terrence Newman is 36 and Leon Hall is 30. Maybe that's why they picked up a corner because they were concerned about age at this point, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just not sure. Being that Kyle Fuller's now off the list, the other guys that I have that are potential corners, I'm not all in on at this point. Um, they do need safety pretty bad, I think. Let me double check. Georgia Lucas, okay. Reggie Nelson's pretty good, actually. So maybe not safety. Maybe, I mean, they could improve slightly if they wanted to, but I'm not sure that's where I want to go. Um, do I want to go? Hold on. Let's see if maybe. Time to take up a bunch of time. I'm just chewing clock and figuring out what I want. What do I want? What do I want? Hmm. Nope, not liking that. Hmm. Don't do that. Hmm. Not a fan of that either.
Just chewing the clock. Just chewing the clock. Just chewing the clock. Just chewing the clock.
Boy, oh boy.
Here we sit like ticks on a toilet seat. Ticks on a toilet seat. Ticks on a toilet seat.
All right. I think. Is this the one I want to go with? That guy can be improved on if they want to slide him in. I think they can slide him in and be pretty decent if they really want to. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with this. We'll pick player that can play offensive line in any position damn near. Out of Virginia, Morgan Moses.
Okay. Not a horrible pick.
I figure they kind of need a tackle. They could replace one of their guards if they wanted to with him. He's very versatile. I think it makes sense here.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong. So we move on to the San Diego Chargers, who initially would draft Jason Verrett out of TCU. And that's not a bad pick, but the big knock on Jason Verrett is the man could not stay healthy to save his life.
God, no.
When he was healthy, he was fantastic. Unfortunately, he kept getting hurt. So what could they do here instead? Well, I identified what I think is probably one of their biggest weaknesses, because they still got Phillip Rivers slinging the football. They've got a great tight end. They've got okay wide receivers, not great. They could definitely use a running back, but I don't know that there's one here I want to give them because I don't think it's worth it. However, they really need somebody to anchor the line. They need a center. And I think there's a great, great, great center to be had here. I just have to find him now. And figure out. There he is. Originally drafted as a guard, would move into center, so I call him a center, but he can do either or, and considering they could use either or, they're going to take from the U, from Miami, Brandon Linder.
Fair enough.
I think that fills their line. They can plug him in at guard. They can plug him in at center. They would actually take a guy who was a guarded center. Later on in the draft, he actually went before Linder. I can't find him now. But yeah, I believe his last name is Watt, but it's not one of those Watts. Greg
Okay.
Watt or something. Anyway,
Fair enough.
your turn,
Fair
sir.
enough. All right, at 26, that belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles. They originally picked up linebacker Marcus Smith. Not great. Not a great pick overall. Honestly, looking at their team, I don't even think they really need linebacker. They actually have some pretty good linebackers. Actually, I have them needing a wide receiver, a defensive end, a cornerback, or a safety. So I'm looking more at their defensive backfield personally. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like what's left on the board here, potentially. Let me double check something. Just want to double check on players here and see if one of these I don't mind too much. I think we're gonna do this. I do think they can definitely improve on corner. Both of their corners are less than ideal in my opinion. And I am gonna pick up a corner out of Clemson, Bashad Breeland.
Yep, he's on my list. I will not say that that is a bad grab. So, at number 27, we have the Arizona Cardinals. And they also have a glaring weakness. A big one. And it's also right in the middle of their offensive line.
Oof.
Yeah, it was bad. But thankfully, there is still a guy who can center your line, who played very, very well for a long period of time, and even won a Super Bowl. So, out of Boise State University, the Cardinals will select Matt Paradis. Started all 98 games he played, wound up winning Super Bowl 50.
Fair enough. All right, let's go on to pick 28, which belongs to the Carolina Panthers. They originally picked up a wide receiver in Kelvin Benjamin. Eh is maybe the nicest thing to say about that.
He had one or two pretty good years and then got
Yeah.
really, really overweight.
Yeah. But they do need a wide receiver. They do need a tackle, a guard, or a defensive end. The problem is I'm now kind of feeling that I'm not sure if I'm happy with what's left on my board here. Let's see if maybe... What am I feeling here? What am I feeling here? Questions. Well, they do have Cam Newton at this point, so I think protecting him makes the most sense. But let's see if I actually like what's left on my board here. What do I got left on my board? You're not a bad option. I don't want to use way down here. That's actually not a bad option. And that one.
Yep, that's where I'm going if he doesn't take him.
I think I'm kind of now trying to decide, do I want to go, which one I think makes the most sense here. Could really improve there. Maybe that's the choice. Maybe that's the choice. They do need guard too, though. Honestly, either tackle or guard I can't really go wrong with because they need both pretty bad. Just which one do I like better? Out of these two, which one do I like better? They're both pretty good. And they're not that far removed from each other. But I think one got so undervalued that I think I'm going to bring him up into the first round because, quite frankly, he got done incredibly dirty, in my opinion. So I'm going to pick, out of Boise State, Charles Leno Jr.
Yep. That was one on my list that I was like, yeah, that dude got done dirty.
Yep. I think he deserves to be a first rounder, even if it's towards the bottom.
All right, so now we have the New England Patriots at 29. And as per usual with these drafts that we're seeing around this time, they don't really need anything.
I was going to say.
But there is one position, I think, where they have the biggest flaw. And there is a player here that can solve it. Their biggest flaw is at inside linebacker. And so, wondering, maybe, if he played in a different system, would he last longer?
Oh, fair.
And considering the penchant that Bill had for making defensive players even better, they're going to select from Ohio State middle linebacker Ryan Shazier.
Oh, okay. Not one that I originally had on my list.
How do you not have Ryan Shazier on your list? He played 4 seasons and consistently recorded the same amount of tackles repetitively.
No, just wasn't top of my list.
Yeah, he initially went really high to the Steelers and then got hurt.
That might be why.
Yeah, literally, if you look at his tackles, 87, 87, 89, he had 7 sacks in his 4-season career. I mean, really 3 seasons, because he didn't actually get started until the last couple of games in 2014.
I don't know. I just wasn't super impressed overall, but yeah, I get it. Just not a high bar on my list, but I get it.
They're going to grab Shazier because I think they can do better with him than the Steelers did.
So, moving on to pick 30. At pick 30, we do have the San Francisco 49ers. They did draft, I believe, Jimmy Ward's a corner, right? No,
Safety,
he's strong
corner.
safety.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Patriots
Uh,
initially drafted Dominic Easley, a defensive tackle out of Florida. Who?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think Shazier's better.
and the 49ers originally picked Jimmy Ward. Not a bad pick, by the way. I do want to make that very clear. I think that's actually a decent pick. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, looking at what they really need, like, out of all the options, they really didn't need to protect their backfield pretty much at all. I have them more needing a linebacker, a quarterback to replace Colin Kaepernick, because we know that that's going to inevitably happen. A center, a tackle, or a guard, or defensive end, honestly, would all be good options. Um, I think, if I'm going to be blunt here, I think maybe picking up a quarterback at this point does make sense. Um, Colin Kaepernick is not my favorite quarterback. I think they can improve on quarterback. And I think, as much as I don't want to pick this person at this point, I just think it makes better sense. I think in the system it would work pretty well. I am picking out of Louisville, Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Ballgame.
I just think he's a better player overall, and especially if he doesn't get injured. I just think, and I don't think behind that line he would either, by the way. I just think he would just have so much more success.
All right. So number 31 is the Denver Broncos. They're pretty good. They originally drafted Bradley Roby, who I have as cornerback out of Ohio State. I do believe he is still playing to this day. Um, at any rate, definitely defensive back is something they need to look at. They probably need to start planning for the retirement of Peyton Manning coming up in a year or two. Because he's been injured. He's had the surgery on his neck. How much more does the captain there have in him? How much more does the sheriff got before he's going to be gone? They could also use a defensive end and a middle linebacker. So thankfully, there is what I consider to be a pretty damned good safety floating around right now because he didn't go earlier. So I'm going to take him here. The Denver Broncos will now draft the safety out of Alabama. Ha ha, Clinton Dix.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can't say you're wrong. And of course, we get to finish off the first round. Pick 32 belongs to Minnesota Vikings. They originally picked QB Teddy Bridgewater. He's no longer here. He got picked a couple picks ahead of him, unfortunately. However, I still think picking QB here does make sense.
You're going to go with who I think you're going to go with, aren't you?
I think they're going to take a chance on a player that maybe might not work out overall long term, but it's certainly better than what you currently have. And I do believe that they are going to pick out of Eastern Illinois, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep. That was the other player that I had at QB.
Yep. Because gosh knows it wasn't going to be Johnny Manziel.
No. The way you started talking about it not working out long term, I was like, oh God, are you going to take Money Manziel here? Please, God, no. Please don't take Bortles either.
No. But I think Jimmy, by the time he started, he was older. I think that's why he got some of the injuries. I think if you give him a chance earlier, maybe there's something there.
Yeah, and also you put him behind a retooled line because I grabbed Taylor Lewan earlier.
Exactly. That's why I did it too, because I was like,
and we've got, you've got a couple of great wide receivers sitting in there. Peterson would not be there this year. This was the year he was suspended for whooping his kid.
Yep.
I'm just going to say what it is.
It is what it is.
But, he got in trouble for that and wound up being suspended. He would be back next season.
Yep.
I mean, you've already got a great running back room. You've got, Greg Jennings still. at wide receiver. You've got eventually we're going to have the breakout of Adam Thielen there. Yeah, I think if you get Jimmy G here, I think that works out better. And then hopefully, because you've got a better tackle, he doesn't get submarined a la Teddy Bridgewater, and then you have to scramble and trade for Sam Bradford.
Right, exactly. Which, by the way, I think still might have been able to work if we were giving him the fucking line that he actually needed.
Hopefully, because we gave him a better line now and a running back in St. Louis. Well, the Rams, L.A.
The Rams, yeah, they become LA Rams.
Yeah. Hopefully he sticks around there and he doesn't get hurt. But yeah, so there's our draft. Notable undrafted were all the outside linebackers that we could have taken. Barr, Trent Murphy, Jeremiah Atochu. We did draft one. I grabbed Shaquille Barrett. But yeah, there were some notable ones there. Avery Williamson from the inside linebackers. Telvin Smith. Anthony Hitchens didn't go. D. Ford and Shelby Harris, defensive ends. Eric Ebron didn't go. We did not take. I also had Alan Hearns and Dante Moncrief as wide receivers that could potentially have gone first round. Hearns definitely had deep route capability, but he never really had a quarterback that could show it off with him. I think he probably goes second round or third round and does really well. Eric Ebron probably goes high second round. Xavier Suafilo probably also goes high second round. Andrew Norwell. Trey Boston and Adrian Phillips. Jason Verrett. And, of course, the winner of a Super Bowl. And you can definitively say he won the Super Bowl. Because, like, without him, they don't win. Malcolm Butler. Why, on the 1 yard line, do you not run it with Marshawn Lynch?
I still think it's funny, though, because, like, even though everyone knows his name for that one thing, if you look at his career, it wasn't great.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I still put him on here, though, because anybody that can make a play in that situation, that tells me you got ice in your veins, and we can train you.
Right.
You can't get a killer instinct like that.
No.
So.
Yep. The only other running back that I had even potentially on my list was Jerick McKinnon, by the way, but I figured there's no way he goes first
I had
round.
both Trey Mason and Jerick McKinnon on my list.
Yeah.
But
I also had tackle Cameron Fleming. I had guard Gabe Jackson.
I also did have Jawan James on here. Like I said, he didn't have a horrible career, just not as high up as he went.
Yep.
But yeah,
I'm honestly surprised we never took Anthony Barr, but like I just.
By the time we got down to, there were a lot of teams that needed it, but I mean, they
needed so many other things.
There's so many other things that were necessary that we know aren't going to be there if you can know what the players' careers are going to be, you know?
Exactly, yeah. That was my big issue, is as much as I wanted to draft him several times, I kept looking at him, but then I would look at other positions and go, no, these are just bigger upgrades for most teams.
Yeah, and I thought about him with the Patriots, because I was like, do you know what Bill Belichick would do with Anthony Barr?
Yeah, that'd be interesting, but...
They already they got Jamie Collins and I forget who the other one is, but they had two guys already that were outside linebackers. You just go, there's no room for him. What are you going to know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that was my big issue, too, is that, like, as good as he can be, there's just a lot of other better upgrades in the immediate.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
like, this was a draft, like, honestly, out of all the drafts we've done, this was the draft that probably had the most this was a draft for the trenches. Like, it was either guards, tackles, defensive ends, like, defensive linemen. Like, that was the majority of what we drafted. Don't get me wrong, there was a couple wide receivers, there was one or two good quarterbacks, but, like, yeah, it was mostly trenches football for this draft, for sure.
Well, the next draft we're going to do next year is interesting.
Hold on, I gotta look at it then.
I'll just tell you, the number one overall pick was a guy from Florida State who plays quarterback and is still currently playing. Famous for shoving crab legs down his pants.
I'm not gonna lie to you, that doesn't ring a bell.
Really? You didn't hear about that?
No, so now I gotta hold on before you tell me. I just gotta go see who it is now. before you say anything. Are you serious? Did he really?
Yes, he tried to steal crab legs when he was in college.
It's
Before he got,
hilarious.
right before the draft, they caught him with crab legs in his pants.
No, I don't remember hearing about that. Honestly, though, like maybe I'm just a Jameis Winston defender. I still don't think he's a bad quarterback at all.
No, I don't think so either. I've always liked him.
Yeah.
I was always of the thing, though, that I said, to me, I looked at him and I went, if I'm Tampa, I might take Mariota over
Maybe.
Winston because he moves better and your line was, you weren't very good at that point.
Maybe, but Marcus Mariota wasn't fantastic either.
No, but I don't know. Like at the time,
I'm
I
just
thought he
quickly
could be
looking here
better.
at the teams. Yeah, I'm just quickly looking. I mean, Amari Cooper, hard to beat that. Todd Gurley, early on, Todd Gurley, fucking beast.
Early Todd Gurley was a beast. Everything after that
Um,
was like,
yeah, Melvin Gordon's not bad.
Landon Collins.
Yep, Marcus Peters, Nelson Aguilar.
Eric Kendricks,
Oop, yep.
Tyler Lockett.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Talk about a dude that he didn't go till the third round. Jordan Hicks,
Amir Abdullah is not bad either.
Danielle Hunter.
Frank Clark, oof.
Danielle Hunter did not go until the third
Daniil
round.
Hunter?
Danielle Hunter. Daniil. Pardon.
Daniil, yep.
Danielle Hunter.
Jordan Hicks, Jesus. Ty Montgomery, my gosh. Trey Flowers.
Zadarius Smith.
Yep, I see him there too.
Quan Alexander. Grady Jarrett. Jesus. Oh, there you go. 5th round pick 146.
Stephen Diggs, yep.
Can you dig that? And of course, Jay
Ozoma. CJ Ozoma.
Oh, yes.
Can't.
DJ Alexander. This is a good draft.
Kind of all over the place.
Quandre Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Darren Waller.
Darren Waller. I just got there too.
Trent Brown.
Oh, Austin Reader.
Oh, good God. He was a 7th round pick?
Yep.
You've got to be kidding me. No way he makes it there this time.
Nope.
Rick Lovato.
Trevor Simeon. Trey McBride? Really?
Raheem Mostert. Wasn't even drafted.
Okay, that's a different Trey McBride. Okay, never mind. God. I was gonna say I'll have to look through the.
We're gonna have to, yeah.
undrafted
When it's
stuff.
time, we'll do that definitely.
But yeah, no, there's all over the place. You got some okay offensive players. You got some okay defensive players. It's kind of gonna be all over the place next time.
Yep, we're gonna have some fun with next time. Thank you all for joining in to watch us do this. If you like what we do, give us a like, give us a subscribe, hit that thumbs up button. Let us know that we are entertaining to you. Help us with the algorithm. In the meantime, we'll tell everybody we believe in you. We know that if you put your mind to it, that you can accomplish what your dreams are and what you want to get done. And we're going to tell you in the meantime, join us back here next week. We will be doing a quick preview of the upcoming draft, looking at some of the top picks. But we won't do a full breakdown until sooner towards the draft, where we'll go through. We'll have a 1 week we'll do all the offensive stuff, and 1 week we'll do all the defensive stuff. And then we'll do a mock draft eventually. But next week, we're just going to take a quick look at some of the big names, see what we think about them, discuss them a little bit. And we'll discuss any news that happens between now and then. And we're also going to take a look back at the very beginning of this season. We made some season hot potato predictions. I think it's time we took a look back on that and see if we are right or if we are cooked. In the meantime,
Probably not good.
I don't think it was good at all. I haven't even looked at mine.
No, I almost don't want to.
I almost don't want to either, but we're going to do it. In the meantime, we're going to tell all of you out there to stay bearded.